This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and on Star Cable. If you'd like to give me a call, toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Our email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. The X Chronicles newspaper for May 2010 is available to you, the members of the X-Zone Nation, free of charge. All you have to do is send me your email address. I will send you back a link where you can read it online. You can download it, you can print it out, or you can send it to one of 16 different portable mobile devices. That's free with the compliments of the advertisers in the X-Zone, in the X Chronicles newspaper. Some of the stories in this month's newspaper include another disaster fortune tellers missed, and in this article, once again, I point the finger at fortune tellers on how come none of them knew that BP was going to be polluting and causing the catastrophe that it has in the Gulf of Mexico. We have a story about a Colorado psychic that was arrested. PETA wants to rent the Amityville horror house. Psychic says, I didn't see scam coming. Leonard Nimoy, grateful for opportunities. Man says Portland psychic duped him. Darren Brown investigates. Transsexual says gypsy psychic got him. Another story is ghost hunting is serious business. Another story is electromagnetic radiation. That is by Dr. Nance McLeod. Somebody who was in the psychic hotline business actually comes forward and describes how the scams work. This was featured on ABC News, and we have a story on that in our newspaper this month. And then a scientist in Germany believes that the NASA Voyager spacecraft was actually hijacked by aliens. We have also another story about the simple explanation for UFO sightings that was written by Jeff Danilick. Newfoundland UFO, still a mystery. Politicians report UFO sightings. UFO inspires inventor. Mind-controlled bionic arm. UFOs go to school. New York professor plans to teach UFO course. The truth behind NASA's UFO videos, these videos that are all over the place and on YouTube that people see, these little things flying out in space that they claim to be extraterrestrials that nobody's telling you about. Well, we've got the inside scoop on that. And these are just some of the stories that you'll find in this month's edition of the X Chronicles newspaper. Once again, to get your copy, all you have to do is send me your email address, and I will send you a link with our compliments and the compliments of our advertisers. When we come back from this commercial break, X-Zone Nation, an interview that you're not going to forget very easily. Matthew August Petti is our guest, and this is a pre-recorded interview. He couldn't make it for the live show. His story and his theories have more holes in it than a piece of Swiss cheese in Billy Meyer's refrigerator in Switzerland. Sit back, listen, and get ready to chuckle. And yes, this one too ends up in the X-Zone order of woo-woos. And by the end of the hour, I'm playing another one, Bites the Dust. We'll join this interview in progress, but believe me, you haven't missed much. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with Matthew August Petti, as we talk about his book, Heretical Wisdom, here on the X-Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. You will not want to miss this interview.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits, and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Speaking about Starsky and Hutch, that's David Soul singing Don't Give Up on Us, Baby. Shelley Campbell Harley's my special guest, X-Zone Nation. Now, before we went to the commercial break, Shelley was telling us how she had just moved to L.A. County from San Diego County. That she hadn't had time to find a doctor yet. She had this droning ache in her right-hand side, dropped her son off at school, went to the hospital to find out that her appendix had bust. She called up her sister and said, listen, can you pick up the young guy at school? I'm going to be away for a little while. Then she gets released and ends up back in the hospital. All right, there we go. We're back to where we left off. Take it from here, Shelley.
All righty. Thank you again. Yes, it was quite a surprise. I was only released for 6 hours before being readmitted with extreme pain in my chest and back to find out I had pneumonia, an infection from the surgery, and multiple blood clots in both lungs. So family all over down in San Diego County were called. Everybody was gathering to find out what was going on. Mm-hmm. No one was sure of the outcome, and they readmitted me and immediately put me on medications. So it was quite scary for everyone, except it was very strange. I was the only one very peaceful and calm. I don't know why. It was as if God was just telling me everything's going to turn out fine. Just have faith, relax, and let me take care of it. So that's what I did. I just gave it up to him. My sister had her church praying for me, had a pastor coming in, and when he came in, I wasn't sure if he was there to give me last rites or what.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So he says, no, I'm just there to pray for you. So I ended up being in there for almost 2 weeks.
My heavens.
And was released, and everything was fine, completely healed.
Now, was that the only time that you believe there was some divine intervention or encounter in your life?
Actually, I would say that was the third time in my adult life there were two earlier instances that were just amazing, and all I can attribute it to is God.
Can you share them with us?
Certainly. The first, I would say, was when I was in my early 20s, and we won't say how long ago that was.
All right,
but-
six. Well, all right, listen, I've got this scoop. That was 6 years ago.
Yeah, right about that time.
Yeah.
There you go. That sounds like a good date.
Okay.
Yes, I was coming with a friend of mine who would then be my future husband. We were driving back from a visit up in Washington, state of Washington, and going over Snoqualmie Pass, which can be a little tricky in the wintertime. And it had turned to an icy snow mix, and our car lost control. And at that time, we were in this little gremlin. Those of you, I just dated myself with that one. And it hit an ice bank and went over the edge of a cliff. And we had no idea what was beyond that embankment and trees. But apparently, the car rolled in the air, landed on the ground, rolled down a ways, and came to a stop on all four tires that, even in the snow, were flattened. All the windows were broke out. My future husband and I were sitting with no seatbelts. All the windows broke out, and perfectly fine. There was a slight little scratch on my pinky and on one of his fingers. We were bruised, no broken bones, no concussion, nothing. And here it's about 7:30 at night, and here comes a snow crew out of nowhere. And what happened was there was a long embankment leading from one freeway or highway, going down, and then the other highway coming in the opposite direction. And we landed right before that road. And so they called Highway Patrol, who came and said, your car is totaled. Would you like a ride back into town? So we took it. He couldn't believe that we survived that with no seatbelts or anything.
That is miraculous.
Isn't it?
You have got
Especially
to
in a small car.
You have got to be one of the luckiest ladies I have ever talked to. And I have to ask you at this point, are you a religious person?
I wouldn't go so far as to say religious. That just gives me sort of a cult feeling. But I am definitely a Christian. At that time, I knew God, but I hadn't been a churchgoer, not praying every day, but I felt a closeness to God. And it wasn't until later, after I got married and had my daughter, that I actually was rebaptized and starting on the journey to become closer to God.
Do you think a person has to be religious to experience the type of miracles or divine intervention or angelic intervention that you definitely have had?
I would have thought so when I was younger, but the more I hear every day, and it seems like in recent years, more and more people that are non-believers and some that are in other religions, I have heard of many miracles all over the world. So it seems like God wants to bless everybody and is trying to make a point through all that.
Tell me, why do you think you experienced these miracles?
It's hard to say. The only thing I can think of is God just isn't through with me yet. It's just not my time. And I don't know if it's just things that have happened and he's pulled me out of it, or it was partially my decision and it wasn't time. But I just don't think he's done with me yet. I think he has more things for me to do in this life.
How do you deal with those people who have heard your stories, who have had the pleasure of meeting you in person, and they believe it's sheer coincidence, nothing to do with a miracle? How do you deal with that?
Well, I tell them, that's one of the things I don't argue is politics and religion, for one thing. And all I can do is share my story. And most of the time, in fact, I can't think of anybody that hasn't been anything but amazed at what I tell them. They hear and I hear of people in circumstances that were less severe than mine that have died. For instance, people dying of just one blood clot in their arm from a little surgery or something. So everybody's quite amazed when I share my stories.
Tell me, during your hospital stay, did you ever have an out-of-body experience, or did you see any angels, or did you hear any voices of comfort?
No voices, no angels, although I do believe in angels. But as bad as I was feeling, especially that first week, I wish I had an out-of-body experience.
Do you feel any different because of what happened to you?
I do. I think, especially this last time, having a younger son, he's 10 now, he was 8 at the time, and realizing how precious life is, it's just really made me focus on life. And I wake up every morning now and just thank God I'm alive and able to breathe and see the sun and enjoy my family.
So tell me, how do you feel that these near-death experiences, and I'm going to call them what I believe they are, these miracles, have changed your life?
It's made me feel a little more focused on people and trying to be a blessing to others and not taking life for granted so much and just going day to day like I used to, getting caught up in everyday life. Now I try to really focus and make each minute count.
Focus on what?
On what I'm doing, trying not to waste time so much. And I don't mean not ever relax, because we all need relaxation.
Sure.
But just really thinking of focus, what is my purpose in life? And trying to use each day to move forward in that, just appreciate my family and friends, and just do what I can to make the world a better place.
Tell me about the books that you write, and do the books or the articles that you write ever reflect on your experiences that you've had?
Most of them, I've done 5 children's books, and the one I'm working on right now, in a way, does reflect my life's focus. I just started it this year. It's called Guerrilla Goodness, A Revolution of Kindness. And it's due out this fall, and that reflects more of my life's purpose on appreciating life and instances where people have shown that random kindness to others, and just listing ways that we can show just from the littlest things to the biggest things. So much focus in the news is on the bad things that are happening.
Gosh,
I think we need some light shown on the good things that we can do and that have been done.
Do you think that in these days that more and more people are looking for that light, looking for the good to do for others than, let's say, prior to 9/11?
I think so. I think it seems like since 9/11, there have been so many more instances of just natural disasters, currently with Guatemala, Ecuador, the terrible things happening there, just all over. People are looking for hope somewhere, even if they don't believe in God. They're looking for some hope. And so I hope, books like mine and others will give them that hope, something to hold on to. It's pretty tough time to be raising kids.
It sure is. Please stand by. You and I have to take our commercial break with the news. But before we go to the news, X-Zone Nation, the X-Chronicles newspaper is out. If you'd like to get a complimentary link, courtesy of all our advertisers in the X-Chronicles newspaper, all you have to do is send me an email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. That's xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And I'll be glad to send you a link. Now, once you're at the paper, you can download it on to more than 16 mobile devices. You can download it into your computer. You can print it out. It's yours, 100% free to do with what you want. Once again, compliments of all of the advertisers in the X-Chronicles newspaper. You can also visit our website at www.xchronicles-newspaper.com. Shelley Campbell Harley's my special guest. Her website is www.shelleycampbellharley.blogspot.com. And we'll be back on the other side of the news as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, Euro High Definition Radio, UK High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035 is toll-free worldwide. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Matthew August Petti is our special guest. His website is www.hereticalwisdom.net, and he is the author of Heretical Wisdom, the Truths from Within. And I'd like to ask you at this point, all right, we were talking about Jesus, we were talking about God. Why are there so many similarities then between Greek mythology with the birth and the existence of Hercules, which is thousands of years older than Christianity, and yet you've got Hercules, who is the offspring of a god. You have Jesus, who is the offspring of a god. You have both deities that live above, and both their sons come to earth. Both their sons have superhuman powers and are able to communicate directly with the deity. How come?
Well, see, I think that's the I believe the image that is being portrayed about Jesus is, first of all, Jesus is above and beyond anyone because he really did transcend the human condition. Mm-hmm. By that I mean he was born with more of a curiosity than anyone, because first he had to have faith in what his mother told him.
Yeah.
And secondly, and he didn't have any power when he was born. I don't believe so, in my opinion. I believe that his power was just as potentially perfect as ours as infants. But, you know, as we grow older, the environment that we live in reduces our ability.
Geez, Matthew, I don't know any kids today who could raise the dead or walk on water unless it's ice.
No, absolutely not. But Jesus' search for truth was more, you know, even your radio program is established that the search for truth is how we will find the answers to the mysteries. Well, it was a big mystery to Jesus to be born and be told that he had a certain place in history that he, you know, in the future, that he couldn't even define or understand himself. I think we forget the personal sufferings and understandings and confusions that he had to deal with in his search for truth. So in his search for truth, he didn't just study the Hebrew religion. He studied Buddhism. He looked for answers for everything to try and find out what his place was in this idea. And if we're going to return to paradise, and paradise being the total understanding in a sentient being and the total power that comes with it, once you are one with the Creator, he reached that. And when he reached that point, he realized what his purpose was. And he reached that point through his third temptation. And rather than me get into all the steps of that, when he was on the mountain, and he realized finally that he had the power to do whatever he wished, including come down and elevate everyone's consciousness to the same understanding that he had, he realized that he couldn't, because he would be injecting his will into the equation, which was in contrast to what Adam or the first race did. See, the first race, or Atlantis, the superhuman beings who, at the time of their destruction, were still, in relation to us, a much
Okay,
more
now
advanced...
hold on here. Let's back up again. You brought up Atlantis, and nowhere in the Bible do I see any mention of Atlantis.
No, but what we do see in the Bible is that there is a great flood.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's not just in the Bible. There are several conducts and disciplines that believe in a great flood at one time.
In that area of the world, but we know for a fact that great flood was not worldwide.
Actually, we know that the entire world was destroyed according to the Bible.
Oh, wait a sec. That's according to the Bible. You're talking about a group of shepherds and people who had no knowledge that there was a North America, a South America, an Australia. We're talking about people with a very limited set of educational skills here. We're not talking about people who had high school diplomas or university degrees here.
No, but they did know about Adam and Eve, and about the floods, and the book of Genesis was already written when Jesus was born. So he knew about it, although he didn't know. I'm not sure exactly what he knew or what he believed or how much knowledge was available at that time.
Who wrote the book of Genesis? Who wrote the book of Genesis?
Moses wrote the book of Genesis.
Okay.
2,000 years, almost 2,000 years after all of the events between Egypt and the Hebrews and all of the struggles had taken place.
Oh, okay, so we're saying that the flood did take place, all right? Let's just go with the biblical interpretation of this.
But I'm saying the flood took place more than 10,000 years ago. We've already proven that there are scientists now that prove that even the Sphinx is probably 5,000 to 7,000 years BC. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that there was a civilization that existed many, many, many years ago, way beyond that built an ark, but it wasn't a boat. That ark being a bridge of a gap between 2 points in time and two completely different civilizations. One with total understanding and that used their knowledge for their own benefit, or not for their own benefit, but they injected their will into the equation, and a newly evolved race that didn't know anything. So original sin being the failure to know the truth that the first race left behind. Sin is the failure to know truth. So the original sin would come after destruction of all knowledge. The only thing that was left behind was, in my opinion, the Great Pyramid. It wasn't built by aliens. It wasn't built by the Egyptians. It was Noah's Ark. It was the Tower of Babel. And it was the Tree of Life. So
the Great Pyramid is all of those?
That's what I believe, yes. Not only do I believe it was all of those, but on top of it, the part that was missing is the Ark of the Covenant, which, when the first conflict arrived, before the first conflict, anyone could be around this edifice. In fact, the Tower of Babel, because the Egyptians were more advanced than others of this race, but they didn't even realize it until people with lesser abilities migrated into the area. Once they migrated into the area, then the Egyptians started realizing how much powers they had. But the powers they had were a result of the pyramid, which was built by the previous race, because their death and their souls didn't allow them to go to heaven, even though they understood completely the difference between heaven and hell. They were locked in limbo. It was up to Christ not to just save this world, but the world before us, and everyone that's lived before him and after him, because it was an absolute sacrifice, absolute humility, because as he rose and became perfect like Adam, the first son. In the Bible, they refer to Adam as the first son.
Well,
When
wait a
Jesus
sec.
reached
Hold
that
on
level-
here. How can you say Adam was perfect when he got kicked out of the Garden of Eden? That's nothing that
Well,
a perfect person would do.
He was perfect at first. He had the same powers that Jesus had.
Where does it
Jesus
say
had
that?
the same powers that Adam had.
Wait a sec. Hold on here. Where are you getting your information? Where does it say anywhere in the Bible that Adam had the same powers as Jesus? I missed that when I took.
If you look in the New Testament, they refer to Adam as the first son.
Okay, he was the first creation. Yeah, okay.
Pardon me?
All right, he was created first by God. That doesn't mean that he was the same as Jesus. Where did you get that from?
No. He was the first son. I can't give you the exact right now because I don't have my notes, but it was in the Acts of the Apostle, and they explain that particular idea that Adam was the first son, and that in order for Jesus to redeem humanity, he had to do something different than Adam did, and that was he could not inject his will into the power once he realized the power he had. And that is why Adam, that is why he came down off that mountain with the power to elevate everyone's consciousness, but he didn't.
All right, let me ask you this. If Adam was the first son, okay.
Right.
And Jesus is the second son, right?
Right.
If God created Adam without having to have a female to bear Adam, why couldn't he have just created Jesus and Jesus would have popped out of nowhere and taken on his merry way?
Well, because in the first race, we don't know how Adam could be symbolic as mankind with the superhuman abilities in paradise. Paradise, if we're going to return to paradise, then that means we had to start at paradise, and paradise has to have a definition, and that paradise is total comprehension, total understanding, and the total power that goes with it. But then there are two choices that you have once that power is within you. You have the choice either to use your will or to align your will with God's. And that means the power must work through you, just like the trees and the birds and all the lower creatures, but with the understanding that those lower creatures don't have. And so that the power works through you and you are one with God. But it's almost impossible for a human being to have the power and not want to direct it with his own will in some way. And that's why Jesus didn't elevate everyone's consciousness when he finally came off that mountain after the third temptation, which was his own realization that he had the power to do anything, that he could come off the mountain, elevate everyone's consciousness, everyone would understand him, and in doing so, he would have to inject his will into the equation. And that's when he said, "Oh God, why did you forsake me?" He finally understood what his purpose was. Not until then.
Actually, he said, he asked God, why have you forsaken me, when he was on the cross?
No, he didn't.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I don't believe he said it on the cross. He said...
No, wait a minute. I'm asking if you're sure, because you seem to be sure about everything else. I just want to make sure that I didn't make a mistake here.
Actually, I am not sure when he said that, but
he did say it. Let's agree to disagree.
He did say it, and at that time, where his understandings of what his purpose were, and that his purpose was that he could not come down and elevate everyone's consciousness to the same understanding. And this is what brings us to the book of Revelation, which is an entirely another long story here. Jesus came down, and then he knew he was going to be misunderstood. That's why when the Pharisees came and said, "Prove to us that you did this and you did that. We heard about the miracles of heaven." He didn't do it because he had to completely squash his ego, and he couldn't prove to anyone who he. It was all. Anytime a miracle happened, it was a result of someone's faith.
Oh, by the way, it was
not his conscious effort.
By the way, it was in Matthew 27, verse 45 to 46, where he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Right.
And what he meant was his understanding that his whole life was dedicated to finding a truth or to find his purpose. And then when he found his purpose, he realized that his only choice, the only choice he could make was he didn't go down and say, I'm going to go have myself killed. He knew that he was going to be killed because he was going to be misunderstood. And he was going to be misunderstood because he could not use his will to perform miracles or to show or prove anything. All the miracles resulted as the result of someone else's faith, and he said that many times. Your faith has made you well, not me. Be it done so according to your faith. Because miracles are events which are directly proportional to the degree of difference between the truth and the error that needs to be corrected. So
how do we explain then Jesus Christ bringing Lazarus back to life from death?
Well, we explain it by the fact that people there had faith that he could do it, and he said, well, then let him walk. Rise, Lazarus, rise.
Stand by. We've got to take our final break. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. When we come back, X Zone Nation, Matthew believes that the angels of yesteryear were UFOs. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. His website is hereticalwisdom.net. His name, Matthew August Petti. His book, Heretical Wisdom, the Truths from Within. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Matthew August Petti is our special guest. Hereticalwisdom.net is his website. His book is entitled Heretical Wisdom, The Truth from Within. You believe that the angels that are talked about were actually UFOs, am I correct?
Yes, I do. The reason for that is if omnipotence is omniscience, and that is God, then angels, who are creatures above man, have an enormous amount of knowledge that we're still trying to learn. And there exist two angelic forces, and one exhorts the notion that once we achieve omnipotence, our responsibility is to allow the power to work through us, and without the interjection of our will, which is why I relate that to Jesus and your faith has made you well, and your will be done, not mine. And the opposing group, or Lucifer's group, espouses the idea that once we become omnipotent, we may utilize the power as we see fit. And that battle still goes on.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me just bring this question back around because we're running out of time very fast here. Earlier, you and I discussed that Mary was given the message by an angel about her son. We talked about the possibility of artificial insemination. So does this mean that the angel that gave Mary the message was an alien?
No, I believe that, the angel may have been an alien, but that they just in vitro fertilized her with a human seed. Well, Jesus was no different than you and me. They say he was man, so he was man. How hard would it be for an angel to have a human seed? Not hard. If they're much more advanced than we are.
But how do we know that that aliens really exist? Like, there's no proof. There's no proof of aliens. There's no proof of Atlantis. You know, we're talking in big hypothetical circles this hour because there's no proof to substantiate any of the claims you've made.
Well, there is proof of Atlantis,
Where?
but not empirical proof.
Where?
I mean, the search goes on because of the Egyptians' beliefs that Atlantis exists. Let me say this to you, because I know we are running out of time. The Great Pyramid was, I believe, Noah's Ark, and it was an edifice that allowed it had no. It could transcend.
You know what, Exonation? I can't take any more of his babble. Like, he's got more holes in his story than a piece of cheese in Billy Meyer's fridge. This guy's a nut. I mean, we get nuts on the show sometimes. This one goes to the head of the pack. I'm going to put him in the Exxon Order of Woo-Woos. Oh, my goodness. He's got a lot of crazy ideas, but he doesn't have 1 ounce of evidence to support anything that he's talking about. I've heard of people babbling and just talking on for hours, and he falls into it. That's why we played another one, Bites the Dust, because I'm telling you, over this past hour of listening to his babble, or babel in this case, it was obvious that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Now I see why his book hasn't done that well, and it's understandable why he's trying to promote it. He's probably got a garage full of them. I'm not even going to give you his website. We're not even going to put it up on on our archives. We'll put him up as a guest, but what the hell? We'll put his website up there as well. When I come back from this commercial break, more from the X-Zone. J. Allen Danilek is going to be with us. We're going to be talking about reincarnation as the X-Zone continues, live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.